Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money and the Law on My FM 101.3 here on arguably the greatest radio station in the history of radio.
I don't think it's arguable.
I mean, no one's really arguing. We just say it.
It's fact-based.
Fact. It's all about fact. And, of course, on Hollis and Cable Access TV,
fact-based.
This is Money and the Law with John Drohan from Main Effort Financial and, of course, with Jay Marsden, the smartest and most talented and probably one of the best new haircuts on the market. Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. And, of course, we're joined by Christian Bidet from the Hollis and Cable Access TV, who's the senior executive producer.
Executive producer.
Every show he gets a different title. Every show he gets upgraded one step up.
He gets a promotion.
Closer to the top.
Yep.
Pretty soon he's going to, pretty soon.
Irish raise, all title, no money. That's what he gets right there.
How you doing, brother?
Sweet.
You do have a sweet-looking haircut today.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I know you don't want to talk about hair. You're just not even going to say it. Just don't say it.
I can't
don't
even.
Even say it. Don't even say it.
I just can't.
You know what?
I just can't even.
And what Jay's referring to is that my hair is it's in a little bit different style today. For many of you know, I haven't had a haircut in over a year.
It's a style.
It's my COVID prevention. But what I have found out is that as my hair got long, I don't understand how people can function with hair like hanging in their face. Like, because I had short hair for 40 years, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it. I'm like, I find myself twitching all day. Like, yeah.
Well, I think that's what happens. I think you move into this like, okay, what can I do? Like, what am I holding back my hair options here, right? And so you obviously went.
That's right.
To the dark side. That's fine.
I mean,
okay.
Really, as dark as it can be.
Yeah, as dark as it can be is right. Yeah.
It's funny. Last night, I went out to dinner for the first time inside in a year. So the first time we actually ate inside because again because of the pandemic, but we've had everybody there with the exception of me has had their vaccination and the social distancing was very safe.
Yeah, sure.
And so I went with it was an old buddy of mine from college, who I haven't seen in I don't know how many years, so many years. A guy named Sean Calley, great guy, Sean Calley. And Sean Calley was he was one of my mentors because when I first got to the military academy, he was one of the guys who had been in the Army before and was now at the military academy. So other than the jamokes like us, who we just rolled in and we're like, we have no idea what's going on about the Army.
Right.
Like they're called prior service. All the prior service guys would come and go, sit down, young grasshoppers. This is how it works.
That's how it works.
This is what you do, and this is what you don't do. So I owe much of a great amount of my time in the military, especially my initial upbringing, to Sean Calley. And this is a great story.
So where'd you go to dinner?
We went to in Boston. We went out to
Whoa.
Boston. We went all the way to town to one of my and these guys are not a sponsor. However, if they were, I would put them on the show every week. Lola 42 in the Seaport. Oh,
right.
Absolutely fantastic. So the Sean Calley story, his greatest claim to fame is. So when we first got there, and there's a distinct difference when you're a freshman to the upperclassmen, and it's called this fourth class system where you're kind of indoctrinated in the training. So Sean and I were in the same platoon, and his squad leader was this very attractive junior by the name of Cadet Breen.
Okay.
So Cadet Breen, and of course a senior subordinate relationship in that freshman year. Sean Calley and Cadet Breen ended up getting married 4 years later.
Go figure. All right.
And they will be celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary this December.
God bless them. 30. I love it.
So we got to see, and so of course she changed her name. Her name's Lynn Calley, but of course to me she will always be Cadet Breen. So we had a good laugh about that last night. Good times.
Nice.
Good times.
Excellent.
Good times. But the point of my hair is he was dumbfounded by my hair because he's a 20-year military guy.
Sure. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't wrestle you to the ground right there and take
care
of that with a butter knife.
Gonna have my Rambo knife. Yeah.
That's right. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So what's new?
What's going on? Same old. I mean, we're moving into springtime, and we got a lot going on.
It is springtime.
Things have been busy.
It is.
March flew by like it was nobody's business. I mean, it feels like it's supposed to be long because it's 5 weeks long, and that's crazy.
We said that last week, right? When we were walking out of the show, we're like, where did it go?
So not only where did it go, now we're like almost the second week in April.
And that's what happens, right?
Which is great, which is fine. I mean, I'm all
like
good
time.
with that. But
I like how time works.
I like time. I like to be around for it. It's nice, So so it's good. So it's all good. So yeah, things have been moving right along. Keep on trucking.
So I have a special shout out to arguably could potentially be our greatest fan, and I said, and she is about to make a call to the Marston Law Group, because as I said, it's time for you to do your estate update.
Absolutely. Let's get that.
And this is, and I don't even know if she's going to be listening to the show because she just retired.
Wow.
So Lisa from Ashland,
nice. Yeah, Lisa. Shout out.
Lisa from Ashland, who when, as I was talking on the phone, she said to me, she had sent me an email because she's one of my clients. She said, she sent me an email and she said, oh, by the way, I don't know how you don't like corned beef and cabbage, which means that she actually listened to the St. Patrick's Day show.
She did.
She listened to it, and she said it was, her being Irish as well.
Loving it.
She loved it. So a special shout out to her again. She said, you guys are so funny. She goes, I try and time my breaks around when you take your breaks, and then I come back so I make sure I don't miss a thing.
Nice.
That's the kind of dedication we're looking for.
That's the kind of commitment. Commitment to the cause.
And there's more of you out there. There's more of you out there. As I said, the T-shirts are on the way.
Yep.
So all we need is just
handcrafted right here
moneyinthelaw.net, and just send us your size. There you go.
Nice. Excellent. Fantastic. Things have been good. How about you? Everybody busy? Everybody good?
Everybody's busy. You're right. So, springtime's it's a fun time of year in the if there is ever a fun time of year in the financial planning, because again, we've said this before on the show, that this is the time when people are, because it's in and around tax time, so they kind of have an idea of what's going on in their financial world. They're not pressed up against any deadlines. I mean, other than their taxes, and of course we got a little bit of a window, a little breather there for that. But this is a good time. People seem to be very they're motivated and they're kind of leaning forward in the foxhole to make adjustments, or to at least to do a review to kind of understand kind of where they're at. And for, as you know, for people like us, that's great, right?
Yeah.
So we want kind of those engaged clients that are like, hey, what's going on? Is it time for us to review? Is there anything? I want to make sure that I'm doing things. And if you do these things earlier rather than later, when I say, I'm particularly like in the fiscal year, if you do this earlier rather than later, then you know what, you can end up making some really positive decisions that can have some good impact on your overall situation. And then the stock market, who knows, right? Who knows what's going on? Who knows
Always
what's
up, down,
it's like
up,
the
down,
elevator
up,
business.
down,
It's up and down. It's up and down, right?
Give it, take it away. Give it, take it away. Give it, take it away. So that's a little crazy.
But it's really all about kind of being in the the right position for kind of where you are in your life, and that's kind of the story of it all. It's like, okay, how much time do I have? As we've said before, kind of most of our work gears people towards retirement, or whatever their retirement is going to look like. How much? What's the realistic timeline between now and that time? Sure. And the more time, the more flexibility I have, the more ability I have to be able to take some risk. If that's in my nature.
Right.
And it's all about kind of what I want to, what do I want to get out of it? Some people are like, I just don't want to lose any money, right? And then there's options for that. And then there's, hey, all I want to do is I want to make money. I want to, come on, I'm interested in performance. So then there's options for that. So, it's all about kind of what, the person, the family, and kind of what they want to get out of it. But really, it's what's that end state, and where do they want to be when all the dust settles?
Right. Fascinating.
It is. Well, I know you're on.
Sounds like an interesting industry.
It's a wonderful industry. I mean, and part of me is I'm glad you've never left it, because you had the option, right? You had the option. You're like, it's like you just couldn't let it go, right?
No,
you were just, you were like,
too ensconced.
And well, you know what? And the other thing is, and it's probably because we always joke about that little tiny mutual fund company from the Massachusetts area that you were indoctrinated in, but in your defense, or in their defense, or in whoever's defense, you came into it like you learned a lot, right? When you came into that stepped into the world, into that Fidelity world. I mean,
well, you drink it from the fire hose. I mean, it's a volume business.
Yeah.
And so when you take 150 calls a day as a phone jockey, for Fidelity, answering 800 number calls, you learn a lot, and they coach you up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they have and had at the time, and they continue to have. I mean, they have a very robust training program. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, you got to get your securities licenses, and you got to take all those classes, and you got to study, and then you learn, this real world test world. You learn what the real world looks like, and then you learn how they do it. And I mean, so they sort of ingratiate you into this like very skilled, ability to kind of understand everything that's going on, and the access to information that you had. I mean, meeting with Fidelity fund managers, big names,
sure,
on a regular basis to find out, what's going on in the market, and it gave you a very practical, a very hands-on. You kind of learned the right way to do things. Fidelity always had the highest level of, from an ethical perspective. They always had that was there. Always.
This isn't a Fidelity commercial.
No. But I'm saying, I mean, when if you want to learn the business, I mean, we all go someplace to learn the business, and you learn it at whatever speed you learn it at. But if you wanted to stay on the retail side and you wanted to understand, I mean, you kind of pick a path, right? I mean, the industry kind of breaks down, and you either decide you're going to be you try to be a big Wall Street player, you be a retail. I mean, there's only a couple areas you can kind of infiltrate, and then you either go, or you go corporate.
CGA infiltrating.
Or you go corporate, right? And then you end up going to a marketing department or something like that, where you're not necessarily the front line, and so they had a lot to offer from that perspective, but then at some point, size has its advantages and size has its disadvantages.
Well,
that's part of the challenge.
And you learn. I mean, that's the thing, is you truly get this great education and a fast education, right? And it's real world. It's like grown up stuff. Like, hey, if you don't produce, if you don't figure this out sooner rather than later, then we'll find somebody that can.
Yeah.
But you get to this, you kind of get this really like solid base education of just kind of how the stock market works, how the mutual fund industry works, and how what is when you say when you meet with a fund manager and a fund manager sits down and gives a class there, this is how it works. This is what we do, right? Because people, I'm sure like when when I first came into the business, I'm like, oh, this guy's a fund manager. Like, oh, that's great. That you manage a fund. What does that mean? I know a mutual fund's a bucket of stocks. I mean, I know.
Sure.
But when they talk about the science behind it, and they talk about, okay, hey, this is what we focus on. This is what we're looking at. Because remember, their job is to beat their index, right?
That's right.
That's their job. The fund company, the fund manager, his or her job is, my job is, if you can put it in whatever index we match this up against versus paying me to manage it, my job is to try and beat that index over time.
Sure.
And if I can do it, then I'm doing my job, right? And if I'm doing it and it's exceeding the cost of what it's costing me for me to do that,
you're ahead of the curve.
Then I'm doing my job, right? That's really what that industry is all about. And it's fast.
But there's another component to that which I always found amazing, because for people who are on the the index bandwagon, if you will, there was always this argument of here's the index bandwagon, here's the index bandwagon, here's the index bandwagon. But what never got built into those conversations, and you can find these stats are all over the place, but you can find these stats of, what does a pick any mutual fund, or pick the index. Either way, those numbers then compared to what the average return is of the individual investor, what's the average return for an investor, they're nowhere near close. The average investor, for any number of reasons, zigs when they should zag, puts money in cash when they should be investing, puts money in the market when they should be in cash.
That's right.
They're kind of always going against the tide. And so that piece of it is something that I think doesn't necessarily make it into the conversation, which is, okay, we don't have to let's put aside the professionally managed and compare that to the index fund, because at the end of the day, it's you versus them.
Yeah.
It's and if you as the investor say, look, I'm not going to do well on my own because I don't really have the skill set or the background or the time or the energy or whatever you want to, whatever it's going to be, that's going to come back and bite you. And so that's really that's the apples to apples comparison. Right. We used to get that all the time, and people would say, "Well,
my return last year was
21%." The argument was always, "I can do better than you guys." I'd say, "Well, then why are we talking?" Basically, why are we talking, right?
They had the right guy on the phone.
So let me see. We go. You go at somebody a little bit. Let me see your return. Show me what your returns are. Show me how you've done. Well, I don't have the number. Well, then we don't know how you did. I mean, this is what.
Is this Jeremy Renner? Jeremy, is this you?
I mean, this is just.
Whose car are we taking?
This is the stuff that you'd hear. You'd hear it over and over and over again, and you say, "Look, guys, if you're doing better, I mean, I am liberating. I'm doing you a favor. If you truly, as an individual, think that you're going to do a better job than a professional manager, then we have no business talking.
By all means.
I'm wasting your time. You're wasting my time. Go get him, Tiger.
Yeah.
Go get him. Trade yourself into retirement. I love it, right? Yeah. But the other part of that is, well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know, and you're not doing the math, and you're not doing and you're not, by the way, you got to include your losers in there. You got to include your cash position in there. All the stuff that you guys, I'm sure, run into all the time. Then you say to yourself, why are we even having this conversation? You want to have it, let's have it. If you really are doing better, you don't need us. You shouldn't be wasting your money.
That's right. If you can do with anything, right? I mean, yes. Why am I if I can rewire my house faster than the electrician can,
why am I bothering?
And it's going to cost me $10,000 less and I have the time to do it?
Yep.
Why bother, right?
Unless I don't I do this?
But sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to do it, right? You'll get that, right? You'll get like, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't have the time to, or whatever. And you're like, great, then I'll do it. But then if it's not like we're trying to, to not do well. It's not like we're not trying to do our best. It's not like we're not trying to like achieve your goals and accomplish the purpose of the account. But if it works out one year and doesn't work out the next year, then it's like, okay, then this is what you bought, right? Yep. This is what you get.
So. Yep. You're right where you need to be. So, right where you need to be. So, what are you talking about today? I get something. If you don't have anything, I get something.
Well, then, all right, then you go ahead, because obviously you've got something.
I do have something. I mean, and it's actually, it feeds into this right here.
I love it. It's almost like we study for the quiz.
It feeds into this. So, we don't get a lot of these calls, but
I thought you were about to say. I truly was about to say. We don't get along. And
no.
My heart was going to sink.
My heart's breaking right now just hearing you say those words.
What do you mean we don't get? Of course we get along.
So we don't get a lot of these calls. But what we're going to talk about after the break is when we do get the call that says, you're never going to guess how much I won on that scratch ticket.
You don't get those all the time.
We're going to talk about how you might want to proceed after this.
Is this the lottery show?
It doesn't have to be the lottery show. It may turn, like everything, you don't know. It's like the lottery. You don't know what you're going to get. Today, everybody.
The lottery is defined differently by a lot of different people.
Today, everybody, you have scratched off the ticket, and this is what we're going to talk about because it does happen.
It happens.
And I do want to give folks a blueprint as to some of the things that they may or may not want to think about But before you jump in the car and race down to Braintree, let's talk about what you might want to think about.
I love it. All right. So we were talking lottery talk or something that in maybe that church, maybe not that pew.
In that theory.
Yeah, right. In that theory. Right after a short break from our sponsors here on Money in the Law, my FM 101.3, Holliston Cable Access TV. Jay Mars and John Drohan. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. And we're back, My FM 101.3, Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Maine for Financial, Christian Manning, the con, to get us through the cosmos here.
Hey, before you start?
Yeah.
When am I going to get my intro to guitar lesson from you, which you promised me? You promised you're going to give me that for my birthday.
Oh, that's
You said, I'll teach you the 3 basic chords. That's all you need
The 3 chords and the truth that you need to know?
3 chords and the truth. I got a guitar. I told you I got it for my birthday. So I'll bring it over. You know what? I'm going to bring it over to 847, to the 847. Is the structure of the is that the music studio?
Music studio is in the back.
Yeah, okay.
In the back. Okay. We have a separate structure for that. It's all covered in those egg crates, like the studio here, so it's like super quiet.
So you know what's cool about this guitar that I got? It's got this little Gizmo Gidget thing that can that tunes it automatically. It's the automatic tuner, which is
nice. Yep.
I mean, what do I know?
Well, we tell people the reason you need that automatic tuner is because you're usually trying to tune your guitar in a bar that's so packed with people who are there to see you play that you need to be able to see the visual.
I mean, I just need the fundamentals of how to how to hold it. I mean,
3 get you there. Okay. 3 get you.
We'll
talk. We'll talk. So before the break, we're talking about the lottery call. So we did get one, and great, fantastic. Somebody says, "Hey, I won the lottery. I scratched the ticket, and when I turned it over, it said, come on down to pick up some money."
It said Main Effort Financial.
Yep. No. And it was a fair amount of money. And so, so the question is, what do you do first? So what happens over at Main Effort when that call comes in?
Well, again, it'll depend on the winnings, right? It'll depend on the winnings. So, if somebody wins, let's say $10,000. Then I'm like,
that's not life changing.
I'm not
sneezing at it, but it's not.
It's not like I won't take the card and cash it in. No, absolutely not. I mean, some people may be tempted to take the card and buy that much worth of more lottery tickets
give me 10 more, number 22.
Give me them all, right? Give me 100 of them. So it depends on the size of the, definitely on the size of the jackpot. But again, it'll be, if it's considerable, and let's say it's kind of north of $100,000, then say, okay, how is this going to change? How is this going to adjust? The first thing we do is we say, okay, you need to get the lottery ticket and turn it in and turn that into cash. You don't want to hang on to the ticket, right? And I've heard this story. So we too have had a lottery winner, and I'll go into that, but I'll tell you his story. But yeah, like you want to.
Well, the first thing is you want to sign that ticket.
Yeah,
that's the first thing you want to do.
Yeah, you want to turn that thing into, like, you want to. It has become a very valuable piece of property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you want to take care of it.
And don't lose it. Whatever you do,
you want to take care of it. And
don't mix it up with all your other ones that you got like 30 of them on your bureau.
Underneath the seat of your car.
Which one's a winner? Which one's not a winner? And by the way, just so you know, for the most part, like I can't speak for other professionals. I feel like I know you well enough that I can speak for you. If somebody calls in and says, "Look, we won north of 1.5," most people will probably move a couple of things around in their calendar, not because they're trying to pigeonhole you into some strategy or some planning, but we understand the urgency, right?
Yep.
I mean, somebody inherits money, there's a process you have to go through. That can be a lumpy process. And so you inherit it, but it takes a while for it to actually kind of become yours, right?
Sure.
But lottery money.
Well, that's that probate thing.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, even if it's not probate, if it's trust money, but I mean, lottery money is like, I woke up today, I went to the store, I scratched, I was got a pack of smokes, I got whatever I got, and then I get this, right? then I get $2 million. That wasn't on your agenda for the day, right? You weren't like planning your week.
You need to change. Yeah, that's right. It's going to change your day.
So it's going to change your day. It might change your week. You might need to take a day off. So you're going to prioritize a couple of things. Yeah. So the first thing I suggest you do is you call an attorney, right?
Yeah.
Not because we're awesome, which we are, but you call an attorney.
Call somebody's attorney.
Because the attorney is going to say to you,
I would call my probation officer first. No, I mean.
That's right. But I mean, you're going to call the attorney, and the attorney is going to say, after we schedule our appointment, I'm going to call the tax person, right? If they're not a tax attorney, if they're in estate planning or whatever. But they're going to know who to bring in as part of this conversation, right? Yeah. And again, I am completely engaged in the excitement. I'm totally into it. But what you want to do is you want to say, look, I just want to know my options.
Yeah.
Right? And look, no disrespect meant to our friends at the lottery, but I'm not sure that you run down to the lottery and let them tell you what to do. I mean, they're going to tell you what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But they're also going to give you some gigantic disclaimer that says, we're not tax experts and we're not legal experts. We don't give any legal advice. We don't give tax advice. You're just going to fill out some forms, and we're going to give you a big check. And take a picture.
And then you're going to hold this giant check. And we're going to take the worst picture of you ever.
Yeah.
Because they're never. Have you ever seen a good lottery picture?
No, and then we're going to beam. Never. Yeah. And then we're basically going to beam your information across the internet.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, so everybody.
So there's real value in sort of saying, okay, we need to make a phone call. And by the way, you can bring to that meeting anybody you want to bring to that meeting, right? I mean, in a lot of cases,
this is a happy meeting. This is a fun meeting, yeah.
And but it's also, it could be a team decision. There could be other people involved. But the first thing you want to do is you want to make that call, right? Mm-hmm. Because you got some decisions to make, right? And one of those decisions is going to be, when do I collect these winnings? And then the other answer is, how do I collect these winnings, right? And there's going to be a whole philosophy around how do you take these payouts, and there needs to be some math done by somebody who's wicked good at math, who can say, look, here are your options. What kind of, and there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, because I was talking to, it related to this. I was saying to somebody, and you guys see it all the time at Main Effort, at the end of the day, how long does it take to save pick, if it's $1 million scratch ticket, how long does it take to save that much money? It takes a lifetime.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Sure.
If you're lucky, it takes a lifetime.
Unless you're a hedge funder. Yeah.
So if they drop this money in your lap.
Or unless you can shoot threes, like unless you can shoot like 60% from the field.
Throw a 98-mile fastball.
Yep. Unless you can, you can drive the green.
Yes. This is life-changing money. And the concept of trying to say, well, look, how do I save over the course of my lifetime $1 million? And then, the clouds part and the gods just reach down and hand you $1 million ticket. And you're like, whoa, you know what? We need to make some decisions. This is game changer money.
That's a great point, right? Because whatever your financial situation was before you scratched the scratch ticket or whatever, now in most cases it's
better. It's better.
It's better, but it's different. It's much different. Yes. So now all of a sudden, and again, when you're just talking legal terms, you have so much more property. Like your property is worth so much more than it was, an hour ago. Because and all this lottery, all money is property, right? It's and now the value has gone up so much. But you're right. I misspoke because you're not going to go down and make your decision because at the ticket place they'll say, well, how do you want this paid out? Do you want this in the form of a payment? Do you want it in a 20-year payment? Do you want it in a lump sum? Because those are decisions. Those are options that you have to make a decision on before you actually take the money. So I agree with you. You need to get some help. You need to get some coaching.
Oh, yeah.
You need to get some coaching, and by all means, your attorney, your tax because now your tax situation has changed.
First of all, now you need an attorney, and now you need a tax professional.
There you go.
Right? Now, up until this point, and I'm not speaking about, up to this point, those probably haven't been big issues for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, hopefully they have been, but up until this point,
my attorney did my estate plan. That's great. Yeah.
But I mean, up until now, you've probably never engaged the services of an attorney or a tax professional for any number of reasons. So now, this is, to your point, you're in uncharted waters here, right? So now you need some good advice. And the first question that you're going to get is, or the first thing you want to think about is, who's going to get the check, first of all?
Sure.
Right? Is that going to be you? Is that going to be an attorney on your behalf? So you could retain a degree of anonymity? Because you might want that. You might say, look, I don't want everybody to know. I mean, everyone's going to find out. The people I want to find out are going to find out, but I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
so that's question number one. Who's even going to get on, and who gets to be on the picture, right? I mean, that's the first thing you want to think about.
And again, this also is reflective too of the amount of money. So if I won $1 million, if you won $1 million, like say I scratched it and it was $1 million, you would be through the roof. You'd be calling your wife. You'd be saying, "This is the greatest thing ever." And this is, I'm so, so many opportunities, things have changed. We're going to be able to do this, this, and this. But for $1 million, that's not to me, that's not the oh my God, I need to have anonymity. I can't let anybody know that. And now granted, people are going to find out, but when you're talking about like the significant amount of money, like when you're talking like north of say $10 million and bigger than that, now it's like, okay, now it's serious, right? Because it's one thing, you call my cousin from Boston and you're like, hey, guess what? I just scratched a $20 million scratch ticket.
Sox tickets on me.
Yeah, and then things are gonna you're gonna start getting a lot of attention, right?
Yes.
So I do like the idea of, for something that's considerable, I do like the idea of trying to maintain anonymity. And then if you're talking one of these ridiculous numbers like the Mega Millions or things like that, where people win $100 million, then it's almost essential because from like a safety or at
that point you're in a different stratosphere. Sure. Now you're talking like family office type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now here's the second thing that you don't want to do. I think you don't want to do. You don't want to start buying stuff. Okay? Now, you're going to want to for all the obvious reasons, right? But let's take a step back from that for a second, right? Like this is one of those things that I think you need to really sort of get comfortable with the fact that A, we're getting good advice and counsel, and B, one of the good advice and counsel things you might get, which is let's not run out and start buying stuff.
Yeah.
Because some of the things that you might want to buy potentially appreciate in value, and some of the things that you think you might want to go out and buy might depreciate in value. And we'd like to be on the appreciation side of the ledger as opposed to the depreciation side of the ledger.
I think Lamborghinis appreciate in value every time.
What depreciates in value? Cars.
Yeah.
Okay? The car, right? Yeah. And there's something about wanting to walk into the dealership and feeling like I can pay cash for the new, I don't know, fill it up, fill in the whatever you're buying, right? Because first of all, there may be a justification for not paying cash. Why? Because the dealerships are usually giving away money.
Yep.
And so there's a whole strategy that says, look, we can get the car, but we don't have to pay for the car. We can get a loan for the car. Because guess what? Your credit score just got a little bit better because now you get $1 million in the bank or more.
Yep.
So let's figure that out, right? So you got to decide what you mentioned. You got to decide, are you taking this as a lump sum? Are you going to take this as payments? And by the way, there may be very real personal reasons that says, look,
absolutely,
normally I would take this as a lump sum, but for any number of personal reasons, it probably makes more sense for me to take this as an annuity payout.
So right? let me tell you, this is so I just scratch a scratch ticket. This is exactly how it's going to play out. I scratch a scratch ticket and I win $2 million. And I call my attorney. My attorney just happens to be also my partner over here. And I call him up and I say, you're not going to believe this. Guess what? And he's going to say what? And I'm going to say, I did it. I scratched a scratch ticket, $2 million. He's going to say, get down here at 847. So I walk into this meeting. The first thing that my attorney is going to say to me, and again, this attorney is my friend, but let's say that we weren't as close as we are. First thing he's going to say, congratulations. What we're going to do now is we are going to take a deep breath, and we are going to take this thing slowly and deliberately, because there's not a rush for you to make a decision.
No.
And there's not a rush for and
no. You want there to be a rush. I get the want there to be a rush. But go ahead.
But he's going to tell me, he's going to say, hey, guess what? You're going to want to buy things, and I as your attorney, I'm going to tell you, you are going to want to buy things. I am going to encourage you. You want to buy I'm going to encourage you. You are going to buy some things.
Don't worry, by the way. Yes, there'll be some buying.
Yeah, but you're not going to buy them today. We're not going to do this today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all of your options and how all of this works. And I'm going to draw some numbers, and I'm going to say, and then I'm going to call my tax guy. I'm going to call your financial planner. I'm going to say, here, guess what? I'm going to bring all these guys in on this new plan that you've just kind of scratched yourself into.
Yep.
And then we're going to we're together. We're going to help you to make the best decision for yourself. But it's going to take a little time. And it's going to take a little time because you don't have to make these decisions, because if you do kind of do some knee-jerk reaction, you could put yourself in a position that you didn't have to be in, right? You didn't have to kind of back yourself in. You're like, oh yeah, I went out and I bought my vacation home that I've always wanted to do that. But your tax guy, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, but you have this lien on this property. There may have been a better way to structure things. And as Jay mentioned before, you may want to. Everybody wants to come in with a checkbook and buy like their new Audi Q7, but at the end of the day, there may be a better option for that. All of this stuff. Because remember, all what money does is money. It increases your flexibility. It gives you more options, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have this instantly you have all these. You have more options, and as part of that meeting, he's going to say, okay, what are some of your other priorities? What are other things that you have to that potentially could use this money for? Remember, all roads lead to retirement. Is some of this going to be designed or geared to help you retire? Maybe you're going to be able to retire sooner rather than later. Do you have some upcoming big bills, like do you have kids that you need to send to college, right?
Well, and again, I mean, this is part of the interview. It's basically an interview, right?
Exactly.
What are all the things that we think this money can do for us? Mm-hmm. Or what are all the things that we need to address that this money is going to help us address? And then to your point, right? I need a car. I need a place to live. I need to put some kids through college. I need to check. Let's get on that list, right?
I need to take my attorney out to dinner. No.
I need to buy steaks across. Yeah, I mean, but the reason I say this is because in many cases, not only is the money game changer money, but once it's gone, it's gone. Right?
Yeah.
And
it goes faster than you think.
Well, and that sounds so obvious, but unless you know what winning that much money can do for you and what that money can do, invested properly and put in the right type of portfolio, and what the power of the earnings that money can do for you, it's a game changer.
I feel like I'm at like an evangelical preacher right now.
But you know what? But you know what? But it is evangelical, because guess what? Because you just found Jesus.
Yeah.
You found 2 million Jesuses, and now you got to figure out, how do I now relate to the fact that my life is different, right? And now I can do one of two things. I can make good decisions, talking with good advisors who can guide me down the path so that I can make better decisions, or I can just run out and do some of the sort of the knee-jerky things that people tend to do, and then afterwards you become one of those stories.
Yeah, and they're countless, countless stories, particularly the big winners. The guy wins $50 million, and he's got nothing to show for it 3 years later.
Yeah.
And he had a great time. He had a great run, but his marriage ruined. He lost, his business or whatever. All of those horror stories. You don't want to be one of those people, and you don't have to be. And you don't have to.
No, you don't have to be. No.
And so the idea of where if you approach this thing like deliberately and systematically, and you're smart about it, and just the people that we work with, and like your clients, like there's people that'll say, look, you may say, look, your best bet is to finance the car, and they're going to say, yeah, I know, I understand, I hear your advice, I'm going to pay cash, and you say, okay, that's
right.
That's
I've had a car payment my entire life.
Exactly.
I'd love to not have a car payment. Okay, that's fine. Let's go through the pros and cons of doing that, and why we may not want to do that, and why we may want to do that. Go back to the idea of saying, look, I know you don't want a car payment, and you're tired of having a car payment, because before it was a struggle to pay your car payment. Now you can make your car payment, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? We can fix it so that it's not a big deal.
Right. Yep. And that may be one piece of advice that when I'm in my meeting with my attorney, but as my attorney who is preaching evangelically to me and saying, hey, you know what, this is you have reached the promised land. In the same breath, he's going to say to me, and he just alluded to this, he's going to say, it's only money. It's only money. So even though you now have all this flexibility, you have things have changed so dramatically for you, especially if it's a truly significant amount of money, at the end of the day, it's only money. So you don't want to put at risk all of your relationships. You don't want to put at risk your marriage. You want to put at risk your relationship with your children. You don't want to put a relationship with your parents or with your siblings. You don't want to be that guy who kind of blows everything up because they now have bags of money, and they're just you don't want to change. It's life changing, but I'm sure that all of us have things about their life that we don't want to change.
Well, we'll talk about it after the break real quick. Could be life-changing good, could be life-changing bad, and we'll address both of those after the break.
All right, we'll be right back. Money and Law, My FM 101.3 on the Lottery Show. If you win the lottery, moneyandlaw.net.
Call me.
All right, we'll see. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money and the Law, My FM 101.3.
You're interesting too, Christian.
The Marsden Law Group.
You don't say a word.
John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian, steering us through the cosmos. It's funny. The trust thing is big, right? You were off the camera, off the mic a minute ago. You were talking trust, and that's one of the first things that people say is, "Hey, I heard you won the lottery, and I think you need a trust, right?" And so then the answer is, okay, so now let's figure out, what type of trust.
Sure.
Let's figure out who's going to be the trustee. Let's figure out what are we trying to accomplish with this money. Do we need, does it make sense to have a professional trustee? Does it make sense to have a co-trustee? Again, remember, if you, when you wake up on Monday and it's a regular Monday, and you wake up on Tuesday and now you're a 2 millionaire, there's some, you got to get used to that jacket, right? That jacket's not going to fit right at first, and you really got to kind of live in this mindset, live in this situation for a while before you can really, I think, before you sort of want to unleash yourself. It's almost like you want to say to somebody, I need to put this thing in escrow. I need to put this ticket somewhere where I can't get a hold of it.
Yep.
And I just need to live with the fact that I just crossed into uncharted waters here, and I don't know what I need to do. But I know I need to spend some time just thinking this thing through.
Yeah.
I need to spend some time with the concept that I've just solved some problems.
And there's a way to do that. And there's a way to do that because, again, we said in the beginning of the show, you don't want to just like hide the lottery ticket up in your dresser drawer or anything like that. So there's some administrative things that you can do immediately, again, where you go to your attorney.
Yeah.
So once you kind of have made the decision, and again, the first decision is like, if it's a considerable amount of money, am I going to take the lump sum, or am I going to take the 20-year? Usually it's a 20-year payout, right? A payout over 20 years, and you're talking to your attorney, you talk to your accountant. Your accountant will explain to you kind of the tax ramifications of either one of those choices.
Sure.
Because there's some significant tax ramifications. And that's the thing, everybody's heard the story. Well, he won $10 million, but really at the end of the day, he walked, he took the lump sum, and it was, after taxes and, because there's all the
right.
government, he ended up getting $4.6 million. That was the check. And you're like, well, wait a minute, why right. is that different? So it's important to understand that, because if you were, there's the tax implication that's on that, but there's also, when just the way the lottery works, and again, because we have some lottery experience as well, is that if somebody wins $10 million, that $10 million is if they took that over a 20-year period. So if they took it as part of the annuity, so it would be in the $10 million case, it would be $500,000 a year for the next 20 years, and you would get that. And again, as you got that $500,000, money would be taxed as income, because it's income tax. But at the end of 20 years, you will have been paid $10 million, right? That you would have been paid. Now, if you take the lump sum, like the right now, I just want the lump sum. There's a calculation that's involved to say, okay, well, this is the time value of money. So it's not going to be $10 million. It's going to be something to the tune of about seven point something million dollars, and then that money is taxed at the highest tax rate, obviously, because as if you've got a $7 million income check, right?
Yep.
And then that's where you get that. That's why there's that difference between, and it's important for people to understand that, so once they kind of decide, okay, I'm going to take the lump sum, or I'm going to take, and that could be a long conversation. It could be some thought going into that.
Yeah.
But once they make that decision, but they say, I still don't know what I want to do with the money. I just want to take my time.
Good.
Then that's where your attorney says, okay, here's what we can do. Here's where we can position the money that you've decided to take, either which way you decide to take it. We can put this here now, and you can it's here. This is how it works. It's safe, and you can think about it.
Yeah. Well, and the importance of thinking about it, goes back to this idea of, well, what would I do, right? And then to your point, well, we're going to spend some, but let's figure it out. Maybe, after a meeting with their advisor, after a meeting with their tax person, and the tax person says, well, we have a conventional approach to this. You won $5 million. Well, we give you, pick a number. Is it 10%? We give you 5%. That's your play money, right? That's the money that you're going to get to do things with. So guess what? Even though you won $5 million, we're still going to put you on a budget for your play money, right?
Sure.
So you're not going to buy a $3 million boat. You're not going to buy a $200,000 Bentley. You're going to spend your money within a percentage of what you're going to do, so that you can check some boxes and accomplish some goals. And it's not about, and then you feel bad, right? Because it's not about not letting you have your money, right? That this whole concept is not about telling somebody right away, you won a ton of money and now we're not going to let you spend it. It's about making sure that at some given point in time, you're not one of those stories that says, I won a potentially life-changing amount of money and my life isn't that different.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the right things with it. And by the way, you hear these stories about people who win, the numbers on the absurd end of the lottery scale.
$100 million.
And they do not run down to the lottery office.
Yeah.
These people go underground for 6 months, because the understanding, obviously, is that they're doing exactly that, right?
Sure.
Like, they'll come out and they'll make themselves known at the right time when it makes sense, when they can literally turn around and be like, okay, I've made some decisions, I've talked to all the right people, and this is the plan for how we're going to go forward with this money.
Because you think about it, right? If you're a 50-year-old guy and you win $2 million, right?
Sure.
And let's say I scratch a $2 million scratch ticket, which means I'm going to probably walk away. If I took the lump sum, I'd probably walk away with, call it $1 million, right?
Yep.
So I have $1 million that I have in my bank or in my trust account. So so now I know I have 3 kids. I can pay for all my 3 kids' college, no problem. I could pay off my house, and if I want to buy another, I could do that, right? So those are things that's different than if someone has $100 million, if 50-year-old wins $100 million, and now they're like, well, whatever I was doing as my job before when I was working at the Postal Service, or whether I was working at at Main Effort Financial or wherever, I may say, like, I may not have to do that anymore, because I just may not, because I may not want to do that anymore. And so those kind of decisions, those truly life-changing decisions, they're going to take time to make, and you're going to want to bounce those off. You want to think about it, or you may, just like anybody who, like, when you retire, you're like, I don't know what I want to do in retirement. So you know what? Take some time, try some things out. Do some research, talk to get some feedback.
Well, and again, if you have never been in the space where having $1 million is sort of a reality for you, if you will, you probably haven't contemplated all the options, right? So when you hear them for the first time, it seems overwhelming, but I think it's important to understand, well, look, you have $1 million. Here's what, we could play the game all day long, right? Here's what your $1 million in a dividend income portfolio could earn for income every year, and it'll give you this much money. If we start
You're like, that's so boring.
Well, that's right. But then you say, well, if we start throwing it at these other things to pay off, then it doesn't have the impact it does, because you gave it all away. There's a longer term strategy here. If your $1 million portfolio is earning you $40,000 a year, and you're trying to do things for your family, and you're trying to pay things down, if you do it over time, there's a way to sort of, make those changes that you want to make, and there's a way to have those impacts on people's lives and still keep your $1 million. It's not about spending your $1 million, down to $150,000 and then saying, well, where did all my money go? This is about, generating wealth, and this is about, this conversation can get a little bit bigger. And it's really where you want to have a sense of what's going on.
And it should be a big conversation.
Yes, it should be a very big conversation.
It should be one of those, and because at the end of the day, someone may say, let's say somebody who loves their job. Let's say I'm an ER nurse, and I love working in the ER, and I want to do this until they tell me I can't do it anymore, because that's just what this is what gets me up in the morning every day. And I want to do it, and I have $1 million in the bank. And oh, by the way, maybe I work for a place that has a pension, so I have plenty of retirement. My husband has plenty of retirement money, or my wife has plenty of retirement money, and so we have enough money to retire. Say we put our kids through school, so we have enough money. Guess what? I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, John or Jay. I hear, like, oh, I get it. Like, I could use this to augment money, but you know what? We've always wanted to have a place in New Hampshire. We've always wanted to have a place, and we're about to pay off our house, and when we retire, and you do the whole numbers drill on it, and they may say, now we can do it. Now it's like now we can do it, and we were going to buy a place that cost $300,000. Guess what? Now we can afford a place that can see Loon Mountain or wherever, So,
again, that's part of the conversation, which then says, okay, if we do that, here's what the other option of that would be. Here's what that money could do for you without doing that. Let's figure out what it looks like. Let's really kind of button this thing up and get this thing squared away. And then that way all of your options. And then you could say, look, you know what? Oh, I never thought of that.
Sure.
That's a great point. And you know what? We're going to go back to our original plan. We like the idea of the 300 because we can do it now versus the 600. Yeah, I mean, again, there's all kinds of different pathways that this thing takes you, and that's what you want to be. That's what you want to be on the lookout for. That's the idea. So in your example, in your case study that this or not so hypothetical case study that we're talking about. So what's the plan? The plan is call your advisor. Yeah. The plan is sit down, talk to somebody. Don't make any immediate decisions. Sketch out what a plan looks like. And then, proceed with caution. But I think you want to really, I go back to this thing we started about earlier. We'll kind of wrap up on this. To try, if fate smiles on you and drops $1 million in your lap, I think you really need to think about what would it take you putting this aside to save this much money.
Yeah.
Right,
so and again, that's important. Understand what it is,
and it's a lifetime. And depending on where you are in the income spectrum, it may not even be the lifetime. I'm talking about saving. I'm talking about you paid all your bills. How much money did you put in the bank at the end of the? And some people at the end of the day say, we put $300 in the bank at the end of the month as part of our savings. Yeah. That's great. Let's do the math and let's see how long it would take your $3,600 a year to turn into $1 million. Because now we have it. So now let's see what we can do to kind of reverse engineer how we can benefit you from getting this money out of the blue and have it have the most impact on your life and the life of your loved ones around what you're trying to do. That's how we would sort of back into this thing. And then, again, the client is the client. The client makes all the decisions. We just want you to make them as fully informed as possible.
All right, so you just won $2 million. What are you doing? Buying a QSL. I'm not listening to you.
I'm not doing anything I just said.
I'm definitely not listening to you, Joanne.
Look, if I win $2 million,
don't you tell me nothing. Shut up.
That will play out just like if I win $2 million, I'd stick it in the bank and I would forget about it for a good long time until I had wrapped my head around it.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what I would do.
Right, and then you're like, okay, I always, I wake up every morning. If I need to write a $2 million check, I can do that.
Yep, I wouldn't buy anything. That's the first thing. I wouldn't buy anything.
Yeah.
First thing I'd do. Probably for a year. Probably sit tight for a year.
I bet you'd buy something.
No, I don't think so. I think I'd lay low. I would lay low.
I bet he'd buy a nice bottle of Tullamore Dew and come over and talk to me about it.
Comfortable in the knowledge that some of my concerns have just melted away. But I'm not sure I would do a lot. I think I would sit tight and let my head wrap itself around the.
So if you won $100 million, now what?
Same thing. No different. It's no different.
So we at Main Effort Financial, we have the big. So if you do win the $100 million or more, you need to call Main Effort because I have the plan. Now you're not going to like it. No one's going to like the plan, but I have the plan that will save your sanity, save all your relationships. It will save your life. Essentially, it is a life-saving plan.
All right, we're going to save it because we're running out of time. We're going to save it for our next show. We're going to do the big lottery show.
All right,
lottery show. And then the big lottery.
The big lottery. Sorry, we'll be back next week.
We'll definitely be back.
Yeah, by my
unless I hit the lottery.
Well, if he that's just it. You just said you're going to come do the show, right?
No, I said I wouldn't do a lot of things, but this, whatever.
I'll get him
here.
I'll get him here. I'll make sure he's not buying too many scratch tickets. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
We'll see everybody next week on Money in the Law, My FM 101.3 and Hollis and Cable Access TV. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Saturday.
Scratch him if you got him.